This is a third and final video on question 9. The sanctity of human life is often used as an argument against the death penalty. Why does Mill think that the death penalty is actually humane when inflicted on a person who has committed a very serious crime? Why, according to Mill, do we not need to worry about inflicting the death penalty by mistake? Mill argues in this 1868 speech to the British Parliament in favor of the death penalty, also known as capital punishment. His side wins at this point. The vote goes in his favor. Here's his reasoning. From page 65, the death penalty is humane to the criminal because it is, quote, the least cruel mode in which it is possible adequately to deter from the crime, end quote. Mill compares the death penalty to prison for life with hard labor, which was the alternative in his time. We should note that in our time, the alternative is usually life in prison without the possibility of parole, but there is no hard labor involved. You decide whether this makes a difference. Mill makes the comparison more explicit on pages 66 and 67. Let me get my book so I can read those to you. So, page 66, about 10 lines down from the top. What comparison can there really be in point of severity between consigning a man to the short pang of a rapid death and immuring him in a living tomb, there to linger out what may be a long life in the hardest and most monotonous toil, without any of its alleviations or rewards, debarred from all pleasant sights and sounds, and cut off from all earthly hope, except a slight mitigation of bodily restraint or a small improvement of diet. And then towards the bottom of that same page 66, about 3 lines from the bottom of the page. Society is asked, then, to denude itself of an instrument of punishment which, in the grave cases to which alone it is suitable, effects its purpose at a less cost of human suffering than any other, while it inspires more terror, is less cruel in actual fact than any punishment that we should think of substituting for it. Mill considers the argument that we cannot teach respect for life by destroying life. He answers on 69 that punishment always deters criminal behavior by inflicting suffering on one person to prevent suffering from his victims or the victims of others who would be deterred by seeing him punished. It's not life we should respect, but life without suffering, in keeping with his whole utilitarian philosophy. Mill thinks that we do not need to worry about inflicting the death penalty by mistake for 2 reasons. First, the mistakes are rare because in civilized justice systems, a person is considered innocent until proven guilty. The burden of proof alone is high enough that it has to be proven beyond doubt that someone is guilty before the death penalty can be inflicted. That's from the bottom of 69 over to the top of 70. Second, the fact that the death penalty cannot be reversed makes judges and juries exceptionally careful not to make a mistake. Okay, so that's all you need for the exam. For your general education, not for the exam, I'm going to challenge Mill's position from several angles. First, if the death penalty is intended as a deterrent, it doesn't work. Countries around the world with the death penalty have higher murder rates than those who have abolished it. Also, if you compare states in the United States with one another, you see the same effect. The states that practice the death penalty have somewhat higher rates of homicide than those who do not. The one major difference is that in states with the death penalty, there is a higher rate of deadly attacks on police officers. Think about this. The explanation that makes the most sense to me is that states with the death penalty communicate a contempt for human life that makes criminals more contemptuous of the lives of police officers. You can find all of the statistics at deathpenalty.org. Second, Mill's argument that the death penalty is more humane and less cruel than life in prison without parole is a weak argument. Let's go back to Mill's distinction between higher and lower pleasures. Remember how Mill says we have to compare them? There needs to be a panel of experts who have experienced both pleasures or pains equally who decides. So to have a valid comparison between the death penalty and life in prison, we would need a group of people who have experienced both, and that's not possible. Third, the sanctity of human life is more of an issue than Mill thinks it is. Sanctity is a religious term. If you don't believe in any religion, it doesn't mean anything to you to say that something is sacred or sanctified. If you do, it means something very specific. For all three of the Abrahamic religions, so Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, the human person is created in the image of God. The image of God is so firmly part of our human nature that there is literally nothing we can do to remove God's image from our identity. Theology says God loves humanity because God created us, not because of anything we do. That means that the worst criminal cannot erase the image of God within them, not even a serial murderer rapist. God still loves this person and hopes for their conversion. Again, if you are not religious, the religious language is not going to mean anything to you. But if you are, you have something serious to think about. The Catholic Church, at least, argues against abortion and against the death penalty for the same reason. Both violate the sanctity of human life. Now, not all Catholics who oppose abortion oppose the death penalty as passionately. That is something for them to think about. The same principle applies equally to both. Finally, mistakes by juries and judges are common, including in death penalty cases. Between 1992 and today, 18 people who were on death row awaiting execution have been found innocent through DNA testing. You can read about these cases on innocenceproject.org. Overall, 300 people who were imprisoned for crimes they did not commit have been released as a result of DNA testing and other reasons. One of them is an LMU student, Frankie Carrillo. You've probably heard of him. There are probably far more cases that have been discovered than have been discovered to date. Here's my pitch. I obviously don't believe in the death penalty, even in extreme cases. What I would ask you to do is not just to believe in what I believe, but to become active in deciding what you do believe for yourself and why you believe it. If you want to be an educated, responsible person, the beliefs that motivate you to advocate for or against a certain cause should be based on good information and on thinking the issue all the way through. Please educate yourself about this issue and form an opinion based on fact and good reasoning, not just on a naive sense of revenge or deterrence. Okay, remember that I'm away through Sunday, September 27th. Our Mill exam is on Tuesday, September 29th. I will hold special office hours just for this class on Monday, September 28th from 2 to 4 in my office. I will also hold my regular office hours Tuesday, 1 through 4, which you can use for last-minute questions. Note, please, that only the first hour of our class on the 29th is for the exam. In the second and third hours, we will begin our work on the ethics of Immanuel Kant. See you on Monday.